Money, 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 money. Today we're going to be going over the top 15 highest paid NBA players currently playing in the league today. Before we hop into it, make sure you guys drop a thumbs up on the video. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that big red subscribe button and turn your notifications on so you never miss a video. But with that being said, let's hop right into it. From LeBron James to Steph Curry to some players you might not have expected, let's count down this top 15. Coming in at number 15, we have Tobias Harris of the Philadelphia 76ers. Although this may be a surprise to many people, back in the summer of 2019, Tobias Harris signed a 5-year, $180 million contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. Tobias was drafted back in 2011 by the Charlotte Hornets before being traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, and as well as spending some time with the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, as well as the Clippers before eventually landing with Philly. Harris's current contract is set to make him $33 million this season, while going up next year it will go up to $36 million. In the next 2 years he will make $38 and $40 million respectively. I'm sure this is a surprise to many of you, as he is set to make more than players such as Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving. It's not that Tobias Harris is a bad player by any means, as last season he did put up just under 20 points per game, as well as throwing in 7 rebounds and 3 assists. But taking a look at some of the players above and below him on this list, if you're the 76ers, you really do have to ask yourself, did we overpay Tobias Harris? Next up, coming in at the 14 spot, we have none other than the fun guy, Kawhi Leonard. After delivering an NBA championship to the city of Toronto in 2019, later that summer, Kawhi Leonard signed a 3-year, $103 million contract with the Los Angeles Clippers. With 1 year with the Clippers already under his belt, Leonard is expected to make $34 million this upcoming season before having 1 year left on his contract where he will make $36 million. Being the great two-way player that Leonard is, he is definitely worth the money that the Los Angeles Clippers are paying him, and he again proved his value last season, as he averaged 27 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Very solid stats if you ask me. Kawhi does have 2 years left on his contract, however he is up for a player option after this year, meaning he can opt out and test free agency. So don't be surprised if you do see Leonard in the free agent market after this season. This only makes sense as a player of Kawhi's standard will most likely have multiple teams offering him more money, as well as the Clippers offering him more money if he does opt out. As per what team he will land on, well, we'll just have to see how the Clippers do, as well as how he's liking his hometown Los Angeles. The Clipper fan though, you shouldn't be too worried, as the Clippers are expected to make another title run this season after losing to the Nuggets in the playoffs last season, so we'll just have to wait and see. Incoming at number 13, we have Kemba Walker of the Boston Celtics. Along with the last 2 players we covered in the summer of 2019, Kemba Walker signed with the Boston Celtics. He signed a 4-year, $141 million contract. Over the entirety of the contract, Walker is expected to make an annual average salary of $35 million, meaning Kemba will see a very comfortable pay of over $34 million this upcoming season. The year after this season, he will see $36 million, and the year after that, if he doesn't opt out, as he does have a player option, he is expected to see over $37.5 million. Over his career, Walker has definitely certified himself as one of the best point guards in the NBA, and Celtic fans are most definitely happy at what he brings to the table, as he is another scoring option to an already very talented team. Next up, at the number 12 spot, we have Miami's Jimmy Butler. Butler has just come off of a great season where he led the underdog Miami Heat all the way to the finals. And even though they didn't win, I'm sure Heat fans have no problem paying Jimmy Butler what they are paying him at the moment. Butler currently has 3 years left on his deal, with a player option available before the 2022-2023 season. Jimmy Buckets is expected to make over $34 million this season, as Pat Riley and the Miami Heat hope to get back to the NBA Finals and capture another championship. Next up at the 11th spot, we have Utah's Mike Conley. This could be another surprising one to many of you, as Conley recently in the past few seasons has not been playing at an all-star level. But it's actually not that surprising when you look at when this deal was signed. The former all-star point guard signed this deal back in the summer of 2016. This was at the time Conley was still with the Memphis Grizzlies and putting up career numbers playing at an all-star level. Since then, Conley has obviously been traded to the Utah Jazz and is on the last year of his contract. He is set to make $34.5 million this upcoming season, which I'm sure Mike Conley is very happy about, as the days of max contracts for the former All-Star are most likely behind him. With those 5 players out the way, we now move into the top 10, and coming in at the 10th spot, we have Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors. Now, Thompson is most likely out for the whole season, so we wish him a speedy recovery, but that won't stop the Splash Brother from getting paid. Klay coming into the season still has 4 years left on his deal and is set to make $35 million this season. The Warriors and Thompson agreed on a contract extension back in the summer of 2019. This was a 5-year, $190 million contract. And for a shooter of Klay's caliber, you have to agree on the contract. At the number 9 spot, we got none other than Playoff P, or Paul George, for the Los Angeles Clippers. After the internet straight up disrespected this man's name after his performance in the playoffs last season, Paul George was busy signing a 5-year, $190 million contract extension with the Clippers. This new contract means Paul George is set to make just under $35.5 million this year, which hopefully will give George the motivation to go out and prove all his doubters wrong. And while I understand the criticism was totally deserved, I do feel people are forgetting what kind of player Paul George is. And to me, he is a straight up superstar. I mean, this is the same guy who finished 3rd in MVP voting just 2 years ago. And I'm pretty sure every team in the league would love a guy like Paul George, someone who can create his own shot, get hot in a hurry, and just give you straight up buckets. So we'll all just have to wait and see if Paul George was worth that extension, and let's find out if he's still a max player. Next up on this list, we got none other than Blake Griffin of the Detroit Pistons, coming in at the 8th spot. Now, considering how many highlights we saw of Griffin on the Clippers, it kinda seems as if Griffin has been out of the mainstream NBA spotlight for some time now, but that hasn't stopped him from getting paid and putting up some solid numbers along the way. He put up a quiet 15-7 last season, and although those may not be his all-star type numbers from the Clippers, you have to remember Griffin is getting up there in age. He is now over 30, so the high flying part of his game is slowly decreasing, but his salary is still up there with the very best. Blake set to make $36.5 million this season, which makes sense when you realize that this contract was originally from his Clippers days back in the summer of 2017. Now, the tough part for the Pistons is that he still has 2 years left on his deal. Now, he does have a player option after this season, but he most likely will not opt out and take the money, as I doubt any team is ready to give Blake as much as $38 million, which is what he would make. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the Pistons can't wait to get rid of this contract, as it definitely free up some much needed space. Incoming at the 7th spot, we have the greatest scoring threat to ever walk the earth, Kevin Durant. I mean, does it really matter what the Nets pay him? Durant should be able to walk into any NBA office and just request whatever amount of money he wants, because he's simply just worth it. He signed a 4-year, $164 million contract to pair up with Kyrie Irving and head to Brooklyn. Now, because he sat out last season with an injury, he's obviously in his 2nd season of the contract, and he has a player option for his final season. The Durantula will make a cool $39 million this season, as the Nets have put together a roster that is simply ready to compete for a title. And with the talent they have on this roster, from Kyrie to Durant to Karis LeVert to DeAndre Jordan to all the role players, It's simply title or bust. Now we'll have to wait and see how Durant is looking after coming off of an injury, but with a few games already under his belt, he looks pretty good so far. The next guy up honestly deserves no introduction. I'll just call him the King. In typical LeBron fashion, James was able to turn the Lakers from a struggling franchise to once again NBA champions. Now I'm not saying it was all him, because Rob Pelinka finally did make some good moves for the first time in his GM career, but James has simply shown to have a profound effect on teams and they're winning. And again, he's one of those players where you should just be able to pay him whatever he wants because he's worth it. And though he's getting up there in age, he's still going to be one of the highest paid players in the league. He's expected to make $39 million this season, which notches him the 6th spot on this list. And just recently, he just agreed to a 2-year extension with the Lakers, which seems to put him perfectly set up to play with his younger son, Bronny, when he enters the NBA. The whole career of LeBron James has been somewhat of a story. And you guys can quote me on this one. LeBron will finish with 6 championships. I got him winning 2 more. Let me know how many you guys think LeBron will finish with by the time he retires down below in the comment section. We now advance into the top 5 of this list, and coming in at number 5, we got James Harden of the Houston Rockets. Now with all this trade talk going on right now, who knows where Harden ends up, whether he stays with the Rockets this season or he gets traded. I think if he gets traded, he's most likely going to the Sixers. Let me know where you think he could go though. But regardless, Harden will still be one of the top paid players in the NBA this season. He still currently has 3 years left on his current deal with a player option available, and he is set to make $40 million this season. The beard is definitely worth the money as he certified himself as an NBA superstar with his crazy scoring ability. And while yes, his usage rate is super high, you can't deny the fact that he's an incredible scorer. He may not be the best scorer or the most talented scorer in the league, but he definitely knows how to put the ball in the basket. I mean, this guy really averaged 36 points per game. My player in 2K isn't even averaging 36. I hope one day Harden will find himself on a championship team, as the media loves to rip on this guy. And I don't think it's totally deserved, given the fact that he's never really been on a team that has the talent to really win the championship. Alright, next up, coming at the 4 spot, we got none other than John Wall. This one honestly was the most surprising for me. I had no idea John Wall was getting paid like this. Regardless though, Wall is now on the Houston Rockets and he is set to make some big time money. We're talking about $41 million this year. That is some big time money for a player like John Wall, who's just coming off of an injury to live up to. Now, in all fairness to Wall, this was signed in the summer of 2017 after he just came off of a season where he averaged 23 and 10. And at that time, John Wall was considered one of the best point guards in the league, and you could possibly, I wouldn't have, but you could possibly have put him in the top point guard kind of argument. But since that deal was signed, John Wall has only played a total of 73 games. That includes sitting out the entirety of last season. So this is a big redemption year for him. Now the craziest part of the deal is that he still has 3 years left on this contract. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with John Wall. Alright, now let's jump into the top 3 on this list. And at the 3rd spot is the point guard, Chris Paul. Now, I'm a huge fan of Chris Paul's game, and I got no problem with any team paying Chris Paul this amount of money. Even though you could argue he's getting up there in age, we have to remember this is the same guy from last year who led the Oklahoma City Thunder, which were a team that I didn't think had no business in the playoffs last year, to a 5 seed. That's all I needed to see from Chris Paul to know that this guy is still one of the top guards in the league, no question about it. Paul has 2 years left on his deal with a player option available after this season and is set to make $41 million. Now this contract is back when he was with the Rockets still. It was a contract extension he signed for 4 years as a max contract. And with his age getting up there, you most likely won't see Chris Paul opt out of his player option. So yeah, he'll most likely take the money. And it seems like he's found a new home in Phoenix, which I think is a great fit for him. He's got young guys around him. He's got a young superstar in Devin Booker, an up-and-coming good big man in DeAndre Ayton. I think it's a great fit for him. I'm excited to see what those guys can do, and I feel like they can definitely make a playoff push, especially given Paul's veteran leadership he brings to the table. Coming in at the number 2 spot, we got another guy who switched teams this year, Russell Westbrook. He's set to make $41 million this upcoming season, which is great for Russ because at the end of the day, this guy is still a Hall of Famer. And even though he had a sort of disappointing year last season with the Rockets, I don't think it was a good fit at all. And I think in his new home in Washington, he'll be able to run the show his ability to pass the ball, and just show his ability to lead a team again like he did in OKC. In my personal opinion, I don't think he's honestly worth this contract at the moment, but you can't really argue with it. He's going to put up good stats. He's going to be the leader of this Wizards team. So at the end of the day, you can't really argue with it. And coming in at the number 1 spot on this list, the highest paid player in the NBA this season will be Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Nothing to really argue about here. Steph is widely considered as the best point guard in the league. Not by me, but by many people. Sorry guys, I kind of have Damian Lillard slightly ahead of him. But hey, at the end of the day, Steph is going to be Steph. You know what you're getting out of him. He's going to be the best shooter on the court. He's a great playmaker also. And if I was a GM, I'd have no problem paying Steph Curry $43 million. He's the kind of player you would pay anything just to keep a hold of him. He's got 2 years left on this deal, and after that, I really don't see him going anywhere. I feel like Steph is going to be a Warrior for life. Let me know what you guys think down below. Could you guys ever see Steph Curry on a different team? That would just be really weird to me. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys tuning into the video. Let me know if you guys learned anything new or if you were surprised by any of these spots on the list. I'd love to hear all your feedback down below. And if you're new to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with the best NBA content on YouTube. But hey, that does it for this one. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the next one. This has been B-Ball HQ, and I'm out.